you didn't get an opportunity to log into your SpeechWire account, or if you need to create a SpeechWire account, I would advise doing that first. And I plan to walk you through with a demonstration on my end of a test account, how to register through SpeechWire and what information you need to complete, what happens to that information, and how the information in your coach's account is used to communicate with you with tournaments and through tournaments and tournament hosts, and how your active registration helps determine your eligibility for competition at OSDA tournaments. So I'll formally get started here. If you need more time to create your account or log in, kindly raise your hand and I'll pause and give you that time because I don't want to get ahead of anybody. All right, I don't see any hands, so hopefully you're looking at a similar screen to the one I'm looking at. If you haven't registered, then your OSDA membership screen right now is blank. If you have registered, you have information that's been filled out. And if you followed all of the procedures, then your registration is complete and I'm either awaiting payment or your school has paid. And I'll talk about how that works too. So SpeechWire, for those of you who are not familiar, is our online registration platform for both tournament competition at OSDA weekly invitationals, district tournaments, the state finals. It's also our membership registration program. And we have a unique registration button that you probably discovered upon registration, that on your account homepage over in this area, you'll see our logo and it says OSDA registration. If you click on that, you get to this screen. And we ask you to fill out all of the fields because they're all required, especially for school information, school level, and head coach. We encourage you to fill out as much information as you possibly can for all of your assistant coaches, because if your assistant coach is selected as a coach in charge for a particular invitational or weekend, the tournament host can look at the SpeechWire information and cross-reference it, as can the district chair. So it's very helpful to maintain coach supervision, which we mandate at each OSDA tournament. Students can't just show up by themselves, even virtually. Students can't just have a parent unless the parent is school approved, because students require supervision at all academic and athletic activities in Ohio. And certainly it's part of our tournament process and our supervision mandate at the state level through the OSDA. So if you need time to fill this out, feel free to do this while I'm talking. You're all muted, so I can't even hear you typing. But go ahead and fill out your school name as you register in tournaments. If you are filling out an account for a high school, I ask that you put high school after your school name. If you're filling it out for a middle school, put middle school or junior high school, because that will help us ensure that your registration for tournaments is being conducted through the correct account. It is possible to register middle school students through a high school account and vice versa. And we want to minimize that confusion because tournament hosts need to make sure that schools and middle schools and high schools are different buildings and different entities, that those schools are eligible to compete separately. So a high school may be eligible and the middle school isn't, and the high school registers, but the middle school students aren't eligible because of registration status. So, and it's common sense, right? If you're going to take students to a tournament that offers both, it's much easier for those involved to see which students belong with which school. So while you're filling this out, some important things happen once you hit the submit button. I'll talk about that once I do it. But for those of you who are with me, and I know you've registered your team and you're just here to get information, let me share some things. And then if you want to go on your way, that's fine, or ask questions. So I mentioned about one account per high school and one account per middle school, and the need to make sure that your information is accurate with your coaching. So tournament registration, if you've hosted tournaments or if you've been involved in tab rooms, checking registration, tournament hosts will see on a stoplight protocol either a red flag that'll say that your tournament is, that your team is ineligible and flagged, and the tournament host will check with the district chair who has access to registration information, or they will check with me or both. And you may be flagged from competing if your registration is not completed, even if your membership is paid. If your membership is not paid by the deadline, even though your registration is completed. If you have previous financial obligations that aren't tournament related, necessarily, they can just be any financial obligation to any OSDA entity, whether it's you owe for state merchandise or you owe for a district finals to your respective district. You'll also be flagged if you've submitted a purchase order by the deadline, and that's just a SpeechWire. That's, if you look on your state registration, that's a pending registration, and you may compete with a purchase order because some school districts do not pay the bills until after the competitions have started. So a purchase order is fine, not throughout the entire season, but especially at the beginning of the season. And a tournament host will contact me and say, hey, they're flagged, but it says purchase order. And they'll just confirm with me that you're still okay to compete, and you will be. So in a moment, I'm going to click on the submit button and go over two more things that happen. One thing that happens is an email is sent to your school administrator. So please make sure you select the correct email address for that person. And the second thing that happens is you must generate an invoice. And I'll explain the importance of that once I click on the submit button. But before I do, I want to pause. Does anyone have any questions so far? So I have a question about, should the school administrator be the principal or the head coach of the school? And that's a great question, especially if they're two different individuals. It would be the person, I would recommend the person to whom you report for your coaching position. So if it's the principal that's directly in charge of you, I would put them down. If it's the administrator, some school administrators, or I'm sorry, some coaches put their superintendent because they want their superintendent to be aware. What will happen? That's a great question, Jenna, thanks. What happens, and I'm going to just go through this now with you to just demonstrate. When you click on submit form, oh, I got to put a fax in. Sorry, I'm trying to, I had this stuff filled in on another page, but I accidentally closed out of it. Head coach, cell phone. I'm just going to repeat my information. I think I've got everything in. Let's see if that works. School fax. Okay. I'm glad this is happening to me because I'm sure it happens to most coaches when they start registering. I always tell my students it's all right to show the screw ups in class. That's what we learn from. All right, hopefully this works. Third time's a charm. All right, beautiful. So two things happen when you click that submit button. The first thing that happens is an email is sent to your school administrator, and it tells them three things. The first thing it tells them is that you have registered your team for competition for the 2021-2022 season. It names the team. It names you as head coach, if that's who's completing the registration. It lists the people it lists the people designated as assistant coaches. It explains briefly that those coaches or a school designee must accompany students to tournaments for supervisory purposes. And it indicates that, the registration deadline, and just basically states that upon completion of all the requirements, you're eligible to compete in speech and debate. I hear from administrators. There are some that every year have emailed me thanking us for the notice and looking forward to the season. I don't hear from most of them because I'm sure they're very busy people and they probably just look at that email as a formality. But one of the reasons we put that into the program the last few years is so that administrators are aware, and we have a record that they are aware of which people are sanctioned by the coach or designated by the coach to supervise students. It just provides an extra measure of clarity and transparency for us, for the tournament hosts, and for you. If that information changes, go in and change your account. And what I'll do is, or email me, because I create a separate spreadsheet that I share with district chairs and treasurers and board members so that all of us can monitor those changes. And if an assistant coach change happens, I can go in and change my Google spreadsheet because there's been a change in SpeechWire. And so what I do is when I monitor SpeechWire, I see that there have been updates and they appear chronologically at the top of the page. I can click on the school and see what's been changed. And it's usually either I marked you as paid, you changed something in your registration, or a team has registered. And so I can alter my spreadsheet accordingly. So that's one thing that happens when you click submit. The second thing that happens, and I can't stress the importance of this enough, this button up here is very important and it's not necessarily intuitive. Coaches miss this. And I want to make sure that you don't. When you click on generate membership invoice, that's exactly what happens. You generate your invoice. Now the experienced coaches know about this because they typically discover or have discovered that they need this invoice to share with their treasurer, whether it's a team treasurer from a booster account or a school treasurer through the school district or through the school's administrative account or treasury account. What happens then, once I receive payment, is I go into SpeechWire and let me show you this. Okay, so we now have 61 participants. That includes, of course, the test account that I just created, but I can view the memberships and I can see who's updated. This is my alphabetical list, as you can see. You can see that there are a couple of schools here that I'm going to need to email and contact coaches and say, please generate your invoice. If you don't generate an invoice, you're still registered. The problem is I can't mark you paid. And SpeechWire doesn't recognize you as registered because you haven't generated an invoice for payment. And this can't be marked as paid until you generate an invoice. So it's for both our benefits. It's for the coach's benefit because they can submit the invoice to process payment, and it's for our benefit because we can record it. I don't contact coaches upon payment unless they request it. Some coaches will say, as soon as you receive my school's check, would you please contact me? Most coaches don't, because what happens is I go into SpeechWire and when I view your memberships, and I'll just, since Dolores is on this call, use her account. Hi, Dolores. And Dolores is a Hall of Fame veteran coach who knows this process well. I can look at her registration, and if I want to mark payment for Dolores, I go here, I mark it as when either if her PO came, I mark it as pending. If her check or PayPal payment is received, I mark it as paid. I fill out the appropriate numbers and information, and then I click Save Changes. So I'm not going to save it because Dolores doesn't have this completed yet, and that's fine. But once I do that, then what happens is I'll just return to the spreadsheet without saving anything. And I'll use Jeremy's account as an example. It's marked as paid, and then on his invoice, it'll be marked also as paid, and he can collect that if he needs to save it for his records. So what I'm saying is when you check your SpeechWire account periodically, check to see if your treasurer, if you don't communicate with them that it's been submitted, check to make sure that your invoice has been paid and that you are in good standing for the season. Which leads me to the last point I want to bring up before I stop recording, or before I take questions and stop recording. And the last point, as I return to the spreadsheet, is that when you look at that invoice, you'll notice that it says that your deadline, there's a two-part deadline. Your deadline is either November 1st or before your first OSDA sanctioned tournament. And an OSDA sanctioned tournament is any tournament that offers bids. So if you go to a novice tournament in October that doesn't offer bids, or a middle school tournament that is a novice or first time practice tournaments, those you do not have to be paid prior to. If you are going to a BQS tournament prior to November 1st, you must either have paid or have secured payment. So what happens, there's kind of a gray area here. Coaches can submit a purchase order and say the purchase order has been submitted, see how it's processed. I've got a number, I've got a district contact, then I go in and mark it pending. Students have sent me screenshots of checks that were dropped into the mail. I have a check number, I have a treasurer's signature. Those are proof of payment or proof of pending payment. And then of course, I'll receive checks day of. Coaches will use PayPal and submit their credit card information or a team's credit card information. All of that will validate payment prior to the November 1st or BQS invitational deadline, whichever comes first. Then once you're paid and competing, you open up your SpeechWire account and use that to respond to tournament invitations and register your team. And you're good to go. And that is the end of my presentation.